Yeah.
Listening to others.
Thank you.
Okay. We need some books.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Begin with Ashrei on page 214. Ashrei Ashrei Beitecha, Ojalu Chasela, Shem Shekachalo, Shem Sharanai Elohav, Tila Ledavid Amin Cholo. Tilatranai Daber Pi, Vivereko Basar Shem Kocholi Olam Ve'ev, Anachnu Varech Yam Yatavir Olam, Hallelujah, Obal Tzion Goel, Eshav Yefeshev Yaakov Niu Maranai, Banizot Biti Yotam, Amarnai Ruchi Asher Lechu V'Loyar Seitam. Yatakadosh Shev Tilod Yisrael, the Karazel Zev Yamar, Kadosh Kadosh Kadosh, and Nice Mavaras Kavado, the Kabin David Yamin Kadish Bishmem Ruamai. Vatiseni Ruach, Vashma Harai Korash Gadol, Baruch Nin Kamod Ladin Ruchashi made Batrai Kazias Agriv Shapchim Yamim. Adonai Yimloch Leolam Ramachote Kayom. Yiftachu b'chayidei shemecha, ki lo azavta dorshecha Adonai, Adonai chafetz l'man tzidko, yagdil Torah v'yadir, yikadav yikadav shemei Rabbi, gamad yirach yotei v'amich malchutei, b'chayechon u'b'yomechon, u'b'chayidechon Beit Yisrael, bagalav izman kariv imru, amen, yehi shmer b'mabarach, Lama Me'almaya, Yibarach Vishtabach, Vidparjman Vidase, Vidavid Levet Lash, Vidagusha, Brichu, Leila Mikol Brachata Vishirata, Tuvatava Nechamata, Damiran Bialama, Bimeru, Amen. Please rise to 18. Vani tefilati, Lecharanayet Ratzon, Limrav Chastecha, Aneini, Bemed Yishecha. By Hibin Saron, by Yomer Moshe, Kumarnai Flitoi Becha, Bianusu Misanecha Mipanecha, Kimiteton Torah, Varanai Mirushalayim, Baruch Shanatan Torali Moisrael. Did anyone assign the laning today? Who's here?
Awesome.
All right.
Who's doing it during the week, do you know?
Korach.
Korach, yeah.
You want to wing it? You want me to wing it?
your Eitz Chaim Chumash, Korach can be found on page 860.
Yeah, please.
Beginning of chapter 16 of the Book of Numbers.
All right. ותיגע לביתר מחותל נזם קרוב ויחם בתיתן בתתום בישראל לחנך אסרח מירץ אמן אמר אמן הכבוד תגוות התורה. First Aliyah? Deborah, you want an Aliyah?
We know where it stops. Yeah.
Do you want an Aliyah?
I want Aliyah.
Okay, Ta'amod. Twice in one day. This is you have to come back. It's the chazaka.
Or Rachel.
Come over
I'll
me.
give it to you. Or Rachel. Zachava. Or Zachava. Or means.
What's your dad's Hebrew name?
Joseph Jacob. Joseph Catler.
Yosef.
Yosef. Okay, so what's your Hebrew name?
Ora.
Rachel. Bat Yosef. And what's your mom's Hebrew name? Miriam. Baruch Shatan Torah L'mo Yisrael B'Kedushato. Come over here. V'atan v'yolachem Haim Kolchem Hayom.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mitorah amin v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehat ben Levi v'Datan v'Aviram b'nei Eliav v'On ben Pelet b'nei Ruvain. ויקומו לפני משה ואנשים מבני ישראל 50 ו200 נשיאי עדה קריאי מועד אנשי שי. ויקהלו על משה ועל אהרון ויאמרו עליהם רב לכם כי כל העדה כולם קדושים ובתוכם אדוני ומדוע תתנשאו על קהל אדוני.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Let's stand next to Joey. Ta'amod. Devorah bat Davi Velinda. Aliyah Shniya. Second Aliyah is the fourth verse.
Came just in time to see if Baruch Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. וישמע משה ויפול על פניו וידבר אל קורח ואל כל עדתו לאמור בוקר ויודע אדוני את אשר לו ואת הקדוש ויקריב אליו ואת אשר יבחר בו יקריב אליו זאת עשו ככולכם מחתות קורח וכל עדתו ותנו בהן אש ושימו עליהן קטורת לפני אדוני מחר והיה האיש אשר יבחר אדוני הוא הקדוש רב לכם בני לוי.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. יישר כוח.
Ya'amod. Shuvu Yisrael. Ben Abraham Veliba La'aliyah Shlishit.
Page 861, verse 8, last line.
ויאמר משה
ברכו את אדוני המברך. ברוך אדוני המברך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. Vayomer Moshe El Korach Shim'ona b'nei Levi Hama'at mikem ki hivdil Elohei Yisrael etchem me'adat Yisrael Lakriv etchem elav lavod et avodat Mishkan Adonai v'lamod lifnei ha'idal asher tam Vayakrev otecha v'et kol achecha b'nei Levi itach וביקשתם גם כהונה, לכן אתה וכל עדתך הנועדים על אדוני וירון מהו כי תלינו עליו, וישלח משה לקרוא לדתן ולאבירם בני אליאב, ויאמרו לו נעלה המעט כי העליתנו מארץ זבת חלב ודבש, לעמיתנו במדבר כי תשתרר עלינו גם השתרר.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה אמן.
Ya'amod hamagbiya ta'amod hagolelet. Please rise for lifting and wrapping. Vezot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei Yisrael b'Adonai ve'ad Moshe. Eitz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomechei amel. Eitz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomechei amel. Shar derachem.
Does anybody have a yard site this week that needs an El Malay recited? Avi. You want me to recite? Who am we saying this for? Her Hebrew name? El Malay Rachamim Shochein Bamrumim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina V'malot Kedoshim Utohrim Kezoar Harakia Ma'asirim Led Nishmat Sivya Bat Golda V'chaim Eliezer Shalcha Le'olama Began Eden Tehei Menuchata Anaha Balarachamim Hastireya Beseter Knafecha Le'olamim Utzror Betzrachim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach B'shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen. Avi, you want to share a memory of your mother?
In brief, my mother's been gone 31 years and I miss her. She was a school teacher and a lifetime Hadassah lady. Great love for Hebrew and Israel, and she would be very dismayed to be living through the times that we're living through now. And she was generous and open-hearted, and any degree of cheerfulness or optimism I inherited from her.
He's a Baruch Avi. Anyone else has your yard site this week? Okay. $221. Yalu et Shem Adonai, ki neskav Shem Olavado, Led Vashamayim Yaron Karen Liamod, Olcha Chashidab, V'nei Shalom Gavo Halil David, Mizmor Adonai Arda Devo. I don't know. Me'ashar Darchei Darchei Noam V'chol Nitivotei HaShalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem Yitgadal V'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah V'yalam Adirach Rutei V'yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon V'yomechon V'chayechon Beit Yisrael V'agalav Yizman Kariv Yimru Amen Yehi Shmer B'mavarach Le'elam Le'mel Maya Yiparach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'shamam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shmenu kedusha b'richu, v'lam v'kol brakata, v'shir ata, t'ushkatha v'nechamata, damiran b'alama, v'yimeru, amen. Damidah said in a quiet whisper beginning 2:23. Our petition Amidah begins 2:23. Please remain standing through Kedusha on 2:25. Adonai Svatai Kitach Ufi Yagid Tilatecha. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu v'lo Evotin lo Abraham lo Yitzchak lo Yaakov Elagdol Agibor v'Yanora lo Yon Gmel Chasadim Tovim V'Koneko v'Zocher Chastei Avodim V'Yigoy Levnei V'Nehen Laman Shema V'Yava Malach V'Zer Mashiach Magen Baruch Ata Adonai Magen Abraham Tagibor Le'Lam Adonai Mechem Eitim Atarav Lo Shemri Ratam Mechakel Chaim Mechesed Mechayim Eitim Rachamim Rabim Samech Noflim Rofech Olim Atir Asurim Mekayim Emunato Lishnei Afar Micha Mocha Bagavrot Midom Malach Melech Meimitum Chayim Matzmiach Yeshua V'Namanat Halachayom Eitim Baruch Ata Adonai Mechayim Eitim Reshim Chabolam Kishen Shabbat Hashim V'Tov B'Shmei Marom Kaktuv Yad Neviach V'Kara Zeh Al Zeh V'Yamach Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzvaot Malach Ha'aretz Kevado Limatam Baruch Yameru Baruch Adonai Min Komo Derei Kodshecha Katuv Lemor Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Etzion L'dor Vador Hallelujah L'dor Vador Nagid Godlecha ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו למושל לעולם ועד כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש, אתה אחד בשמך אחד, ומי כעמך ישראל, ומי כעמך ישראל, גוי אחד בארץ, תפארת גדולה, ועטרת ישועה. יום מנוחה וקדושה לעמך נתת, יום מנוחה וקדושה לעמך נתת. אברהם יגל, יצחק ירנן, יעקב ובניו ינוחו בו, יעקב ובניו ינוחו בו. מנוחת אהבה ונדבה, מנוחת אמת ואמונה, מנוחת שלום ושלווה והשקט במתח, מנוחת שלום ושלווה והשקט במתח, מנוחה שלמה שאתה רוצה בה, יכירו בניך וידעו כי מלך היא מנוחתם, והמנוחתם יכישו את שמך, אלוהינו לבתינו, רוצה מנוחתנו, קדשנו מצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, סבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, ותראה ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו בעבר ברצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו בה ישראל מקדשי שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל לפי תפילתם, וישב עבודה בביתך, וישי ישראל תפילתם בבת ברצון, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודה ישראל עמך, ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים, ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון מדהים. הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך רחמים כלו תמו חסדך מעולם קיבינו לך ויעל כולם יתברך ויתרום שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד וכל אחים ידעוך סלע ועלו את שמך באמת על ישועתנו וישועתנו סלע ברוך אתה אדוני הטוב שמך לך נאה להודות שלום רב וישלום חדשים לעולם כי אתה מלך אדון לכל השלום וטוב בעיניך לברך עמך יושב בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. Top of 230. צדקך צדק לעולם, בתורתך אמת, בצדקך לימד מרמה אשר עשית לאלוהים מחמוך. צדקך כראל, משפטיך תהום רבה, אדם ובהמה תושיע אדוני, יקדש יקדש מרבה. יבד יברך טבע מכמוך טבע חייכון וימכון וחד לכל ביתו בגלה בזמן קריב יאמרו אמן, יהי שמך מברך, לעולם לעולם היה, יברך וישתבח ויתפאר רם וינשא ותרב ותלך ותלך ושכינה קדושה בריחו. ולמה כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחה ונחמתה אדם ירן ויעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יקבל צאתנו ובתון לכל ישראל הקודם הני בשמיה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלום רב מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום מרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל יאמרו אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל התגלה. הוא אלוהינו ואלוהינו די מלכנו אבד וככתוב בתורתו וידעת משפטי אלוהיו על כן נקבל אחרינו ויהי לה בתפארת וזכר ותכהנו למלכות שלך כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולם עד ככתוב בתורתך אדוני מלך לעולם ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך לכל הארץ ביום ההוא אדוני אחד ושמו אחד יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד יברח שבטי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם לעולמי היה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקדושה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום מרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו amen. Please go get some food for Sudash Lishit. If you're following on Zoom, get yourself some food. We'll be back with Rabbi Mikie Goldstein's teaching in about 7 or 8 minutes after people had a chance to get their food. shots?
There's a ceiling camera.
Oh, yes.
That's a lot less like.
Well, what I thought was gonna be the case was that the camera was gonna be over here.
Yeah.
And then all the sound was gonna be over here, but because of the light or something, I forget why, they put the camera over there and so
There's
the
that
sound.
little nook over there.
Right, but that's where all the kids stuff are gonna be. So now it's kind of like yeah, so the kids stuff is usually still there, I just cover the sound equipment and put the stuff in front of it, so.
Hold it off like this. That's how you do it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. No, thank you.
Right.
So I wouldn't have suggested it, but if you knew it was okay, then great. It's so good. It's right down the street from my parents' house, so my grandparents go there all the time.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's so their biscuits are just amazing. And one day, if I find out anything about those biscuits, don't anybody tell me anything about them. I don't want to know.
I found a very healthy thing, but then it came with a biscuit.
In LA, I would find it very, very, very impossible for them to have one in them when they serve them with vegetarian dishes.
Yes.
But it's one of those things that I'm like, do not tell me.
Like at Mexican places, you have to.
Right, but Mexican places won't say, like, we're only serving the bean with vegetarian, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
they won't, like,
Right.
they won't qualify it as a vegetarian food always. I'll never forget our, like, favorite Mexican restaurant growing up. My dad, no, I asked about the beans. I was like, why would my dad ask? I asked about the beans, and my dad, like a 3-year-old, my dad was like, ah, la, 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 la. He's like, so silly. And I was like, Dad, what if if I don't order it, you're gonna know what the answer is? He's like, maybe you don't want them. So I was like, okay,
Well, and the corn tortillas are usually safer than flour.
Yeah, but this place that we go to makes them, like you can see them making them, and so you know that there's nothing in it, but. Gosh, right, correct. Right. When I was in Arizona, I had just been for Jonah's wedding, I had just been exposed the week before to somebody, and I said to Jonah, I was like, I'm not tested. Oh, we were in the Balkans. That's where I was. I was like, I'm not testing. And if I feel sick, then of course I'll test, but I'm not gonna just like test because I was exposed. Absolutely not. I was like, I will do that wedding. Come hell or high water, I am doing that wedding.
Joe gave me the Rona on my birthday last year.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was nice of him.
I didn't even realize I had it, that's why.
Nice to share.
Yeah.
It's an unexpected birthday present.
Yeah, it's why, I didn't want to give it to her either, I just didn't know I had it. It was an accident.
He was in the doghouse for that.
Yeah.
And he still is.
So
But, yeah, I mean, because the time I know I had it, it's hard. I knew I had something, but I didn't know that was it. That's how it happened.
He should have very bad words to give me that.
And I was like, oh, I never.
I know he was just doing it out of love.
No, it was an accident. I love it was an accident.
It was an
I didn't even know I had
You
it.
should test me before you get my party, mister.
Right.
I know, but I didn't think of
Right,
it.
so
I thought I had something else and I didn't know
I
that
really
was
thought
it.
that it had to do with the gender of the person. So if a female came up, I would say that. I am.
You could, by the way. Right,
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It was really funny.
I am notoriously bad at grammar. I don't know if you remember that from your class, because I wasn't really bad at grammar, but notoriously. And I blame it on Sinai because we learned Hebrew as a second language, not as like not as a what am I trying to say? Like we didn't learn it through like right or with like vowels or whatever. Exactly. Like I without vowels, because that's how I learned to read, whereas when there are vowels, I'm like, oh, that's not what that word looked like, you know. So.
Just mine is form L's Hava. So that was like the rabbi who baby named me or Rachel means Rachel and Zachava means woman. So I'm like,
For me, or for this guy?
Teaching is steady.
Right. Yes, can I put those back for you?
the best moment
Unless you
of
want
my life. Getting a baby. But a baby named me.
Yeah. Sure, so Rick Muller has been looking at some of our Torah scrolls for us. Is it serious? Well, send it to us and then we can send it to him, but my guess is that he would never. But yeah, we do have someone who comes through and checks, corrects the scrolls once we find something. So is it the Emily Greenstein scroll? Like it doesn't have her cover on it right now? The purple and blue?
No, well, it's green, blue,
Interesting. Fascinating. Okay, yeah, I think that, oh, flames is not hers, but flames, I think. Okay, that might be hers. Okay, all right.
I'll try to describe it.
Okay, great.
Serious?
I'm over here. It's like some girl and what's that letter? That cop. I said, okay, what's that?
No.
That was how.
That's
How you doing?
That's how you do it, yeah.
That's ascertaining first.
There was, it might have been in this service actually, there was one time when I was an intern, and someone was reading Torah and loudly from the downstairs said, there's a mistake in the Torah. And so then everyone, and then so everyone was like, oh, do we have to get out a different Torah and then roll it and read it? I know, but why did you say anything?
Was this this morning in?
No, this was years ago when I was an intern. It was, I don't actually remember who it was, I just remember having to make that decision all by my lonesome. No, we got out a different Torah, but it just takes so much time, because then you get out another Torah, that Torah's, you know, right, that Torah's rolled to Leviticus and you're on Reshit, and they survived. I don't think, yeah, well, I don't think they would have survived had I not made this.
She's at a camp in Ohio. It's founded by Paul Lewin. Chronic disease, so it's like a different disease. Different disease that's again.
Very fancy all of a sudden. No, it doesn't, but it looks good, so that way you go on. Yeah, I told John and Lily this, I'm gonna be in New York, I just had to see one of these, like, good baby there, the one week that I'm there. It would be ridiculous. Yeah, but he had checked it, I mean, unless something came up, he checked it in when we were here. And was supposed to be gonna be, or not traveling.
She's majoring in psychology.
The one thing that, you know, we'll have to figure out is, are we both staying with John and Lily? Because we're supposed to stay with John and Lily. I'm like that large of a space, and they have one bathroom, and for Shabbat it's fine. And Joan and Lily have a birthday party on Shabbat. So, and I can just hang out.
Yeah, Adina's the second session. he tell you? No. Yeah, he called me to ask me about like Safed and how to introduce you to the community. And it was very sweet. Yeah. I told him that he should definitely come to Kol Tefillah and like bring his community with him. Yeah. We are. January 10th or 12th. Oh, cool.
There's this whole week.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Some of you have been had the honor and the joy throughout the weekend of learning with and from Rabbi Mikie Goldstein, who's visiting us from Israel and has been teaching us about his experience on and the aftermath of October 7th, more about what's happening in the world of Masorti Judaism in Israel and how we can support it. And I believe this evening he's going to be giving us, well, I don't even want to put words in your mouth, but something about, apparently last night that happened, the status of the LGBTQ community in Israel and how their experiences, particularly within the Masorti movement, are something that we can be proud of and embracing from across the pond, and other issues that come to mind in that topic. So Rabbi Goldstein, thank you for being with us for the Shabbat. V'chabod.
So again, Shabbat Shalom to everybody, those who are here, those who are at home. I can see at least here there are no children, because I want to start with a midrash that might be a bit risque about tzitzit, which is in this week's parsha, and we'll read it next year, but we read it every day, twice a day, the third paragraph of the Shema. And there's a midrash that talks about tzitzit, like why do we have the tzitzit? It says to remind us to do the mitzvot, and the midrash obviously has a good sense of humor, and it tells a story of a man who went to a house of ill repute. He was on his way there, and all of a sudden the tzitzit start moving, and as he gets nearer, they start slapping him in the face, and then he realizes and he turns around. And so I bring that up because, whether we wear tzitzit or not, certainly when we put on our talit, we get reminded of a mitzvot and things to do, and hopefully our Judaism in general is supposed to make us better people. So on a very personal note, when I was basically turned away from being able to celebrate Judaism as I liked because I'm a gay man, that was very hurtful. I made, I don't know, I wouldn't call them sacrifices in my life, but I made my life in a certain way so that I could live what I believe to be a good Jewish life. And suddenly, the Jewish world around me, first of all in the UK, and then in Israel, even at the time, the Masorti conservative world in the 90s when I came out properly, in the conservative world, there was the wonderful tshuva, yes, we love you, but, right, you can't become rabbis and we won't do unions for you. And this type of turned me away. It was like, if you're not welcome somewhere, then what are you going to do? What was nice, I made Aliyah to Jerusalem in '89, and I immediately found a group of other, I'm going to call them religious LGBTQ people. They were Orthodox and Reform and conservative, and we were able to do Shabbat together. And I still had my family, my sister who already lived in Israel, I would go to often. But for example, on her kibbutz, which is a Bnei Akiva religious kibbutz, when they found out that I was gay, they stopped offering me an aliyah, things like that in shul that I would occasionally get when I was there. And then, you go shul hopping when you go to a new place, and you're looking for somewhere that's accepting, and it was really difficult. And so I went off the derech, as they say, for a number of years. It was the easy way out, but it wasn't something I was happy with, and it was very important for me to find Masorti Judaism, which, even though in 2002, when I found it in a big way in Israel and started to go to my shul, the official line was still that LGBTQ people are not fully accepted, as in going to rabbinical school, etc. But things were already in the change. And as many of you might know, in 2006, the law committee, the CJLS, passed one of a number of tshuvot that said that, yes, we don't just like you, but you can be full members of our Jewish world. You can go to rabbinical school, and we will do unions for you. And it took a few more years, but then now there's also official conservative unions. They don't call it they don't call it kiddushin, but there's liturgy for same-sex weddings, which is it's very meaningful to me that not only am I accepted, but that the liturgy follows that as well. And in my experiences, first of all, why did I go to JTS and not to the Schechter Rabbinical School in Jerusalem, which would have been a lot easier and certainly a lot cheaper? The tshuva was in 2006, or that's when the policies changed in Ziegler here and at JTS, but at the Schechter Rabbinical School, they were holding out. The people leading it were, one of them was actually anti-gay, the dean at the time, a woman who was had to struggle to be accepted to Schechter Rabbinical School to study as a woman a number of years beforehand. She even wrote an article in one of the national papers, Yediot Achronot, saying that the children must have both a male and a female parent, and that, against gay marriage and certainly against gay adoption. And so not only was there no point in even applying because of their policy of not accepting gays and lesbians, but why would I want to go to a school that had people like that? That changed whilst I was already at JTS. In fact, my story of getting to JTS is that I was working for Masorti in development back in 2009, and I met with a cohort of students from Ziegler and JTS to take them around some of our projects. And this was the first cohort that had gay and lesbian students. And I was speaking with them and some of their colleagues, some of them are since friends, and saying, yeah, I'd love to go to rabbinical school. This is the point I'd got to in my life, but I can't. And it was like, I could say I want to go and not have to do it because I couldn't go. And I'd reached this point being involved in my shul, and I spoke about that, I think, at lunchtime. I've spoken to so many people and so many things, I'm not sure who I said what to, but basically being involved in my Masorti shul, and I've seen the movement on a national level, and wanting to be more involved religiously, and being a leader of the Jerusalem Open House for Pride and Tolerance, which is the LGBTQ center in Jerusalem, and not having had the role models that I wanted. All this was leading me to, I think I should take that step and become a rabbi, and I couldn't do that in Israel. I didn't want to go to HUC, the reform school. It wasn't what I thought would be a good fit. And so I could get away with saying I'd love to go to rabbinical school and not have to actually follow through. But they ratted me out to the dean in JTS, Rabbi Danny Nevins, one of the authors of the Tshuva, together with Rabbi Dorf as well, and Rabbi Avram Reisner, that allows for LGBTQ people to be full part of our world. And he called me up and he said, I'm going to be in Jerusalem in a few weeks' time. I hear you're interested in rabbinical school. Let's talk. That was November 2009, and September 2010, I was at JTS. And I had 4 wonderful years. And what was especially important to me, I know some of the first students, the first gay and lesbian students, or 2 in particular, had a particularly hard time at JTS being accepted. It was like they were the first year, and it appeared that the number of faculty didn't know how to, take them in and make them feel at home. By the time I got there in 2010, it was a different story. When we had a class learning kiddushin about weddings from the Talmud, etc. And the professor asked me so you write about what would a gay wedding look like, according to these laws that we've seen, and in other classes as well. It became part of the, if you like, part of the curriculum, even that you talk about same-sex unions and single parents and other issues like that.
was one person who couldn't follow through on that, but most of the professors were very much on board by then. When I came back to Israel, and I was finishing up in May 14, and so in January I happened to be in Israel, and I interviewed in my shul that they were just looking for a rabbi in Rehovot, and got the job, etc. Then so I started in August, and in September they had an installation. They obviously were worried I might go, so they did the installation very quickly. The next day it was reported, first of all, in the Jerusalem Post, that Masorti appoints first out gay rabbi. So I didn't want to be labeled. It's like, I'm not the gay rabbi. I'm a rabbi who is gay. But my shul got the board of the shul got rather upset. It wasn't Masorti who appointed him. It was us. We took him on. And that was really very heartwarming. But it wasn't all plain sailing. When someone speaks, give a drasha, they often mention something more personal about their family members, my husband, my wife, whatever, my children. And a couple of times I mentioned my partner, and in Hebrew everything is gendered, so it was very obvious when I say ben zug for partner. And there were a couple people on the board who said, we're fine with you being gay, but don't put it out there. And that was a very difficult moment for me. It type of shut me down for a bit, and I didn't say anything personal for a number of months, about anything, never mind about my partner. And then another case, I think it's 5 years ago now, in Rehovot, where my kehillah is, we had the first Pride March in Rehovot, right? It's been in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, I'll talk about that soon. And then more and more places are doing some form of march or some form of happening for Pride. And I suggested to the board that perhaps, well, actually, it was one of, we had two co-chairs of the board at the time, and I spoke with one of them, and she suggested to the board that we should march as the shul in the Pride Parade to show support for LGBTQ people in Rehovot. And there were, again, a couple board members, one in particular, the same one who complained last time, who said, I don't think it would be good because then everyone will think we're the gay shul. I think things have got a little better since then, but he was fine with the fact we should march with Masorti banners or something like that. So, and he was also fine with the fact that I offered the shul as a meeting place for the organizers of the parade. So people in Rehovot know that not only is there a gay rabbi in the conservative shul, not the rabbi anymore, but a rabbi in the shul. But they also know it's a place they can come to. We've had plenty same-sex couples who've come to do bar mitzvah for their kids with us, and they feel very much at home, and the members make them feel at home. But there was just this sense amongst a few of the members, or especially a couple of people on the board, that we would get labeled. And it's difficult for me to be the person to move them beyond that. It's like, it's my interest to move them beyond that. But how much can I push? Will it be seen as, as one-sided or something like that? But some of our younger members, we've had quite a few same-sex couples and some transgender people as well. So, the majority are still cisgender, straight, and etc. All the words that like to be bandied about. But we're open, and I think we're making progress on those other people who had problems. For 3 years, I was involved in organizing the Pride Parade in Jerusalem. It started back in 2002. I was living in Israel at the time, but I was away just when it happened the first time. But then I took part every year that I was still in the country, and I became involved in the Jerusalem Open House, and I was on the board, and for 3 years I was the chairman of the board. And Jerusalem, as you know, is a very complex city. It's about a third Orthodox, with many of them being ultra-Orthodox, a third Arab, mainly Muslims, and then a third more secular, traditional. And the first years, when I was not so much in the organizing part, there were demonstrations by Haredi groups against the parade. There was a lot of pressure on the Jerusalem City Council, but after a few years, the actual Haredim coming out to stand in front of us, and demonstrate, that went down, because they noticed that their children started to ask them questions. What does the word gay mean? And maze homo, what's a homo, which is a nice word for gay in Hebrew, although it was sometimes used as derogatorily, but we've reclaimed it. And that the children in Haredi world were like inquisitive. They were like, they had these pashkavil, they put out these type of ads, posters, right, about all sorts of things, and one of them was, don't go to that parade and keep away from it, and it's a toiva, it's an abomination and all that. But they saw that if they put that information out there, then their people start asking questions and seeing that there are other things out there in the world. So they toned down, and we had connections with certain rabbis to try and make sure that there wouldn't be any major problems. One of the big problems we had was with the city council. When there's a pride parade, there are flags all over the place. And a couple of years, the Jerusalem City Council, even though they get paid by the open house to do this, they refused to put up the flags. And we went to court, and the courts are always in our favor. This is similar to the pluralistic Jewish world in Israel, and also the LGBTQ world, that when we go to court, we generally are able to win, or at least reach a compromise, so that it doesn't have to go to the full way. There's very little legislation on Jewish pluralism. There's very little legislation on LGBTQ rights as well. And there was one year when we'd gone to court and we won. They had to put the flags up. They put them up on the morning of the parade. It was on the Thursday afternoon. And at the back of the parade, the stragglers, they were followed by the guys in the big things that go up and take the flags down. It was like minimal time. It's since got a little bit better, but it's always a struggle in Jerusalem. But it's important for, there are obviously Haredi men and women who are LGBTQ. And one amazing thing at the Jerusalem Open House is that they're able to come there. Some of them come in full garb. Some of them find a place to get changed first. But they're able to go there, not all of them, only some of them, and find a way to meet other people. There's a story told by one of the parents. They had I think they still have, once or twice a week, there's a couple parents at the Jerusalem Open House, and any younger people can come and speak to them, and they're parents of LGBTQ children themselves. And so they can be helpful to these youngsters who are coming in and not getting the help they need at home. And there was one case of a Haredi guy who came in, probably like 18, 19, and he said, I don't know what to do. I'm the only one in my yeshiva, the only one in my world who has feelings for men. And it was a mother, she said to him, well, next time you talk about girls, no, we don't talk about girls. She said, no, I bet you do talk about girls. And yeah, well, yeah. It's like, well, next time there's a talk about girls, look around to see if there's anyone else who's zoning out like you do. And if so, see if you can approach them. And apparently it worked. And this guy found someone else we could talk to, a peer. And, I don't know what happened to the guy in the end, but the importance of having not just somewhere to go, but people to speak to, and the importance of having such a center in Jerusalem, like in Tel Aviv, much more open, still needed, but it's a different need. In Jerusalem, it's really life-saving. The Haredi person who is completely lost in their own world has nowhere to turn to. And if they do turn to their rabbi, the rabbi will most likely tell them to find a woman and get better, or even send them off to reparative therapy, which we all know is very dangerous. So there's a lot of life-saving work going on, even though we don't always realize it. But just some conversations can really help people along. I'd be happy if there's any questions as well. I just want to talk about one other thing, and that is, my ex, but I met him back in Israel, and he was in the foreign ministry. And when he actually got accepted to the foreign ministry, he had to lie about being gay. He actually was, what it was thought to be a security risk if someone is gay, because no one knows that they're gay, and then they can use that against them. So there was like a reason for it, but if someone is out, then, then that wouldn't be a problem. But he was actually, had to go through a lie detector, and I think the guy just said, "Oh, okay, I'll pass you," or whatever. And they literally would ask. But then the following year, there was someone else who was being accepted to the ministry. There's like a course that people do, and he was openly gay and had a partner already at the time, because this was before my partner and I were together. And he said, "Well, yeah, I'm gay, but that's not a problem." He went to Yossi Beilin, who was the foreign minister at the time, and he managed to get to him and say, "Look, we need to change this." And they changed the policy. And so by that time, I was already with my ex, and so he like told them one day, "Yes, I'm also gay," and whatever, and it was all okay. But we were the first gay couple to go abroad officially, and that was like complicated. It's like, what do they put in? So you get a diplomatic passport as the spouse of. What do they put in my passport? How do they write that? Our first posting was in Rio. So first of all, the Orthodox rabbi, once he heard about this before we arrived, he went around and signed people up on a petition against the foreign ministry sending a gay couple to Rio. The consul general told him what he could do with that petition, so it did not go far at all. But the country of Brazil did not recognize gay couples at the time. So how can I get my papers? And so the foreign ministry was actually really good, and they appointed me as a local vice consul, so that would allow the foreign ministry there in Brazil to issue me with all the correct papers, etc. And so I could actually live there and work there. I think the best part was that, like, the Jewish community was this is in 1995, the Jewish community there was like, "Oh, I don't know, will we speak with them?" And like, we went to the Reform shul, they were okay. We went to the conservative shul there, they were okay as well. And within time, they met us, they saw that we were normal people, that we weren't trying to make more people into gays and lesbians or whatever. And so much so that at the end, we got invited by the Witzo women just before we left to give us a goodbye send-off. And I think that, we were both helpful back in Israel as being, of course, it was reported in the paper, a gay couple gets sent abroad, but also helping in Jewish community there in Rio, certainly, to be more accepting. And it's sometimes difficult when you're in that position. It's like, I just want to live my life. I don't want to be, I just want to do my job and have a good time. Like, Rio is a good place to have a good time. It's like, but sometimes these things just come, and you've got to be there, and and it's helpful for people in the future as well. So much so in Bnei Akiva in England, a few years after I was very involved in B'nai Akiva there, and my final year I actually worked for the movement for B'nai Akiva there in England, and I was closeted, but I think certainly all my friends knew that I was gay. Then a few years later, there was someone who was already more or less out in London, and he wanted to get a job working for B'nai Akiva as well. And he said, well, Mikie used to work, so why can't I? That again was very heartwarming. It's like I didn't do anything, but it was helpful to someone else. And yeah, certainly the younger generation in England, I don't know about in Israel, but the younger generation of B'nai Akiva people who my niece and nephew were involved in that, they're now grown up, certainly were much changed. Yeah, when do we have to wrap up?
5 minutes of questions.
Okay.
And I go repeat the questions that people on Zoom.
Right.
At the Jerusalem Open House, is there a presence of LGBTQ people who are either Arab, Palestinian citizens of Israel or East Jerusalem?
So is there an Arab or Muslim LGBT presence at Jerusalem Open House? We started, it was in my time, before I was the chair, but I was involved in the fundraising there, and we wrote a proposition to set up an Arab group, which we set up. After about 3-4 years, they went independent. It's called Al-Kaus, which means the rainbow. It went independent because of political reasons. It was difficult for them to continue and also be in contact with other Muslim groups around the world if they were part of a Zionist organization, although Jerusalem Open House is like very quiet on politics to give people space. But yeah, and that was also an amazing thing to be part of.
So a practical question, how do gays and lesbians get married in Israel? Because we know the Rabbanut will give them certificates if they go to Cyprus or what.
Right. So how can gays and lesbians get married in Israel? So basically, Israel only has religious marriage, which means if you're Jewish, it's only sanctioned by the specific Orthodox rabbis, which is a lot of Orthodox rabbis, but not any Orthodox rabbi can do the wedding. They have to be sanctioned by the Ministry of Religious Affairs. And so, but the way Israel works is that if you get married abroad civilly, then because Israel is part of agreements, Israel recognizes civil marriage from abroad. So just as some straight couples might go to Cyprus or other places, so anyone who gets, any same-sex couple who get married civilly abroad, that is a national thing. So like it'd have to be federal. Like when only New York and Massachusetts and California were doing weddings, it wasn't recognized in Israel. But the moment it became federal, then Israel recognizes that, and the couple can be registered as married in the Ministry of the Interior. And of course, no Orthodox rabbi would count that as anything. You know, we do same-sex weddings in the conservative movement and obviously in the Reform movement, and there's also a secular movement that does ceremonies for people. And but there is also the if two people live together for a certain amount of time and they can show that they have the same address, they have a bank account together, then they can get most rights of married couples, even if they're not religiously or civilly married. So that counts for gays and lesbians as well.
What's the situation with adoption?
Adoption. So if a gay couple wants to adopt, they will get the most difficult child that no one else wants. That's it's really problematic in that area. But one area where adoption is involved is if same-sex couple, one is the parent, the biological parent, then the other one can automatically adopt that child of that, which is a child of their union. Just biologically, it couldn't be from both parents. So that does work, but like for regular adoption, say a gay couple doesn't want to go down the route of artificial insemination for women or for men to do surrogacy, which both are really expensive, and certainly surrogacy is not possible in Israel yet for gay couples. You know, they want to adopt. It's a great thing to adopt kids. but it's very difficult.
So the surrogate has to be abroad.
Yeah, it costs. People do in the States. They used to do in India. That closed down. Then there was somewhere else, and that closed. Georgia, the country Georgia. And it becomes really expensive. So if you want to do surrogacy, you have to be really rich in Israel.
You said, I was struck by how you said you just wanted to live your life. and being part of the Masorti movement and also being gay, you just living your life means constantly coming up against these boundaries. Do you find it exhausting or kind of invigorating to be doing this kind of pioneering work?
So I said I wanted to live my life, and yet I'm coming up against all these difficulties of being a Masorti rabbi, being a gay rabbi, just being gay in Israel. Apparently, I find it invigorating. I'm here talking to you about it. It does give a lot of meaning to what I'm doing. Yeah, but there are times when you don't want to be, whether it's a poster boy or a mascot or whatever, But I believe in, if it says in Pirkei Avot that if I can't remember exactly, if there's no man, then be a man type of person. Doesn't mean the male thing, But you got to stand up sometimes if no one else is doing it, and sometimes I'm not even just standing up; I'm just being me, but it ends up being something like that. It certainly gives my life a lot of meaning, and I sometimes get embarrassed about it as well, but I think that's good. That keeps me in my place as well.
That's a good place to end, Rabbi.
Great, thank you.
I want to thank Rabbi Mikie Goldstein for being with our community all of Shabbat, and for Rabbi Schatz for helping to organize this weekend. And we hope that those of you who had a chance to listen to him once, twice, 3, and even 4 times feel properly illuminated as a result. And really thank you for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you. B'mhei Rabbi Yameinu be'eretz kodshenu. We'll do Kaddish to Rabbanan and then Mariv for the end of Shabbat.
Birkat for the bread.
And Birkat. Joey, you want to leave Birkat on his own?
Okay.
Go for it, babe.
Shir Hamalot B'shuv Adonai Et Shivat Zion Hayinu Kecholamim Az Yemale Sechok Pinu Ulshonenu Rina Az Yomeru Vagoim Higdil Adonai La Soti Mele Higdil Adonai La Soti Manu Hayinu Semechim Shuv Adonai Et Shivitenu Ka'afikim ba'negev hazorim bedima berina yiktoru haloch yelechu vacho no se meshech hazara bo yavo berina no se alumotav Tehilat Adonai Yedaber Pi Vivarech Kol Basar Shim Kodshel Lilam Va'ed Va'anachnu Nevarech Yah Me'ata V'ad Olam Hallelujah Hodu Adonai Ki Tov Ki Le'olam Chasto Mi Emalel Gevurot Adonai Yashmiya Kol Tehilato Rabotai Nevarech Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach Me'ata V'ad Olam B'Yirshut Maranan V'Rabotai Nevarech Eloheinu Shechalnu Mishelo Baruch Eloheinu Shechalnu Mishelo V'Tuvo Chayinu Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Hazan Et HaOlam Kulo B'Tuvo B'Chein B'Chesed U'Vrachamim Hu Notein Lechem L'Chol Basar Ki Le'olam Chasdo Uvtuvo Hagadol Tamid L'Chasar Lanu Ve'Ayichsar Lanu Ma'azon Le'olam Va'ed Bavur Shemo Hagadol Ki Welzan Umparnes La'Kol Umetiv La'Kol Umechin Ma'azon L'chol beriotav asher bara. Baruch atah Adonai hazan et hakol. השולחן זה שכן.
Continue with Kaddish Rabbanai, page 111, and then Mariv. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabba v'yalamad yivrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomeichon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael b'agala v'zman kari v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabba mevarach le'olam amel maya barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitshomam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dekudusha v'yikul Leila min kol berachata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata damiran v'yalamaha v'yimru Amen. Al Yisrael, v'al Rabbanan, v'al Tamidehon, v'al Kol Tamidei Tamidehon, v'al Komanda Skin B'Oraita, Divyatra Hadein, v'Dibachol Atar V'Atar. Elahon L'chon Shlam Rabba, China v'Chista v'Rachamin, v'Chayin Arichin, v'Zonar v'Vicha, v'Forkana min Kodama, v'Hondi v'Shmaya v'Imru Amen. Yehei Shlam Rabba min Shemaya, Chaim Tovim Aleinu v'al Kol Yisrael v'Imru Amen. V'Seh Shalom Uramav, Uvrachamav Yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'al Kol Yisrael v'Imru Amen. Please rise for Baruch Hu 264. Second mic.
V'rachum yichaper avon v'lo yashchit v'arbal asher v'lo yer kochamato Adonai Hoshia melech ninu b'yom koreinu v'aruchu et Adonai mevorach Baruch Adonai v'arach le'olam va'ed Mavir yomu mei v'layla mavdil ben yomu v'in layla Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimlacholenu le'olam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai ma'ariv aravim navat olam beit Yisrael v'atchal tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Adonai Elohechem emet. Machuto b'ratzon kiblo aleihem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam. Malchut charu v'necho b'koyam lifnei Moshe ze li anu v'yamru. ונאמר כיפד אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום. ושמור צאתנו ואוהינו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן. ברוך אדוני ביום אדוני בלילה. כי המלכות שלך היא ללמד תמלך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ועל כל מעשיו. גדל וקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יברח ירוצה והמליך מלכותי בחייכון ובימיכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעמי, עמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויזרמן ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשא בריחו, לעולם מכל ברכתה ושירתה דוש בחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא, ויאמרו אמן. Yikadav Shmei Rabba B'Almad Divrach Churutei V'Amlich Malchutei B'Chayechanu V'Yimechonu V'Chayei D'Chol Be'Yisrael B'Agalav Yizman Karev V'Yimeru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'Olam Alal Mei Amayayid Barach V'Yishtabach V'Yitpar V'Yisraman V'Yitnasei V'Yitadar V'Yitalev V'Yitalal Shmei D'Kudsha B'Richu Le'Olam Mikol Berchata V'Shirata Tush B'Chata V'Nechemata Damiran B'Alma V'Yimeru Amen.
Middle of 279 V'Yinom.
Vaynom Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Maseh Yadeinu Kanana Eloheinu Maseh Yadeinu Yoshev B'Seter Elyon B'Tzel Shaddai Yitlonan. Yat Adonai Maseh Yikrain Vaynehu Imo Anochi B'Tzarat Alehu V'Chabdehu Arach Yamim Atzbiehu V'Arehu B'Yeshuati Arach Yamim Atzbiehu V'Arehu B'Yeshuati.
16, second paragraph.
V'Hakadosh Yoshev Tehilot L'Yisrael V'Karl Ze'el Zevi Amar Kadosh Kadosh Kadosh. I don't have to parts Kavod Za'omad. V'Tisainu Roch V'Shma Acharei Kol Rash Gadol Baruch Kavod Adonai Mimkomo. Adonai Imloch Le'olam V'Adonai Malchutei Kemo. Tzikat Chatzedek Le'olam V'Toratcha Emet Titein Emet LeYaakov Chesed LeAvraham Asher Nishbat Al Avotenu Mimei Kedem Baruch Adonai Yom Ya'amas Lanu Ha'el Yeshuatenu Selah Adonai Tzvaot Imanu Miskab Lanu Ha'elakov Selah. Laman. Vayivtechu v'chayu de'ei shemecha ki lo azavta dorshacha Adonai. Adonai chafat leman tzidko yagdil Torah v'yadir.
Shalem 280.
Yikara v'yikara Shmei Rabba V'Almad Divrach Churutei V'Amlich Malchutei B'Chayechanu V'Yimechonu V'Chayei D'Chol Be'Yisrael B'Agalav Yizman Karev V'Yimeru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'Olam Le'Olam Yitbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitpar V'Yitramah V'Yitnasei V'Yitadar V'Yitalev V'Yitalal Shmei D'Kudesha B'Richu Le'Eila Mikol Berchata V'Shirata Tush B'Chata V'Nechemata Da'miran B'Alma V'Yimeru Amen. Titkabal Tzlauton V'Auton D'Chol Yisrael Kadamu B'Hon D'Bishmai V'Yimeru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemai V'Chaim Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael V'Yimeru Amen. Say Shalom B'Imromav Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael V'Yimeru Amen. Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol. כי המלכות שלך היא לעולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. קדיש יתום. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, יעלמא דברך ירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וימיכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל, ועגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשא בריחו, לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, tush bechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. V'seh shalom b'imramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
conclude with Havdalah. Someone want to maybe hit the lights over there?
I got it.
Ushaftem mayim besason mimaynei Yeshua Ladonai Yeshua Alamcha b'chasecha sela Adonai tzvaot imanu miskav lanu Elohei Yaakov Sela Adonai Tzebaot Ashrei Adam Boteach Bach Adonai Yoshia Hamelech Yaneinu V'Yokoreinu La Yehudim Hayta Ora V'Simcha V'Sason V'Yakar Keiti Elanu Kos Yeshua Ubashem Adonai Ekra Baruch atah l'machlam borei pri hagafen Baruch atah l'machlam borei minei besamim Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei miorei ha'esh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam adil b'kodesh v'nachoshev v'nesvei l'mim min yom mashvil l'sheish mei hamaseh Baruch atah Adonai ha'mavdil ben kodesh l'chol Mavdil ben kodesh lechob Chatoteinu yimchob Zareinu bechaspeinu yarbe yarbe kacho Bekacho chavim alayla Zareinu bechaspeinu yarbe yarbe kacho Bekacho chavim alayla
Thanks so much. Thank you.
When you return
Tomorrow.
Don't forget your elbow.
Oh, nice.
It's an early flight.
Anyone else?
9 o'clock. It's 5 to 9. So where? Going to Boston.
More?
Yeah, it's also for cost reasons as well.
9 a.m. Wow. They have to do overtime. They have to fight from one airport to the next. Next airport to the next. Yeah. When my mom went to Israel, she just took out Al and that took her straight there.
Thank you again so much. It was really such a pleasure to have you. I'll be in Israel. I think we will at the same time next year for the USCJ RA convention in December. So hopefully I'll see you then. Yeah, yeah.
German learned how.
So yeah, hopefully I'll see. I don't assume that I'll be in it.
This is my man.
Okay.
Thank you very much.